guys? Just another read aloud. I'm currently laying in my bed, extra cozy and comfy, and I'm gonna go ahead and read a couple chapters. I hope you are all doing great. I miss you all. We left off we just read chapter 11, and I'm about to start chapter 12. All right, here we go. Chapter 12. Connor and I had been spending a lot of time together, so my parents asked me to invite him over for dinner after school. At lunchtime, I made my way to the bathroom as usual and washed my feet. I stared at the stall. I just couldn't do it that day. I felt too happy, and I was excited to see Connor and invite him over. I didn't need another bathroom stall lunch ruining my good mood. So I headed to the library to find Connor, once more taking the longer, quieter route around the office. I nearly tripped over the kid again as I rounded the corner. "Gosh, I'm sorry," I said. Next time I would definitely remember to jump over him. "That's okay," he said softly, never raising his head. I walked away, but stopped a moment to look back at him. He stared down at his sandwich and grapes lying next to him. I wondered why he would be eating out here on the hot sidewalk by himself. He looked about as forlorn and pitiful as I must have looked cowering in the bathroom stall to eat my lunch. How could I just walk past him again, as though he were invisible, as though he were some speed bump in my way? I went back and stood over him. He looked up at me, his hoagie sandwich midway to his mouth, sweat trickling down his brown cheeks. "Do you mind if I sit down?" I asked. He looked around for a second, like he thought I must have been talking to a brick wall or a lamppost nearby. When he looked back at me, he shrugged his shoulders. "Okay." I dropped my school bag on the ground, eased the strap off around my neck, and sat down. He watched as I carefully opened my bag with my toes and pulled out my lunch. I spread a napkin out in front of me, and then lifted out my Cheetos, apple slices, granola bar, and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and arranged them on the napkin. "What's your name?" I asked as I opened the bag of Cheetos with my toes. Instead of giving me his name, he said, "That's cool. How did you do that?" "Lots of practice. I'm Avon." He continued to watch with intense interest as I took out a Cheeto and popped it into my mouth. "Zion," he said. "Like the Bible?" "No, like the Matrix." "Oh," I said, munching on my Cheeto. "What's that?" His mouth dropped open. "Seriously? It's one of my parents' favorite movies. They love sci-fi stuff. They said that I looked like Morpheus when I came out, all bald and mysterious." He frowned. "I am not allowed to watch it, though, because it's rated R." "Oh, I won't be able to either. Bummer. This Morpheus guy sounds interesting." Zion rolled his eyes. "My parents are nuts. They also named my brother Lando, after Lando Calrissian, if you know who that is." "Are you kidding? I'm definitely allowed to watch Star Wars." Zion smiled. "My parents would be impressed." I handed-footed, actually, him a Cheeto. He took it from me without flinching. "Can I ask you something, Zion?" "Mm-hmm," he said, chewing on his Cheeto. "Why do you eat out here on the sidewalk by yourself?" He slowly lifted a juice box to his lips and took a long swig. "It's quiet out here." I tilted my head and raised an eyebrow at him. "Is that the only reason?" He stared at the ground but didn't answer me. "It's okay," I said. "I've been eating lunch in the bathroom." He looked up at me, surprised. "I don't want the other kids to watch me eat. Everyone likes to watch a fat guy eat. They want to see how much food he can stuff into his mouth." "But you're not that fat," I said, and then cringed at my own words. I had meant it to sound nice, but it didn't sound so nice coming out. "It's okay, I know I am." "Well, I think you look great," I said. Zion handed me a grape. I took it from him with my foot and popped it into my mouth. "So why have you been eating in the bathroom?" he asked. I swallowed my grape. "I don't want the other kids to watch me eat either." "Why not?" "Because they'll think I'm gross." "No, they won't." "Yes, they will." "How do you know that?" Zion said. "I just do. Once, when I went to this children's museum with my parents, I sat down to play with the Play-Doh at a table. Of course, I had to play with my feet, and everyone at the table stared at me. It is interesting to see. Then, this one kid cried out, "Gross! She's putting her feet in the Play-Doh!" "Kids are dumb," Zion said. Then his mom looked at my mom and said this, "Would you mind not letting your daughter put her feet in the Play-Doh?" "Jerk," Zion muttered. "And what did your mom say?" I smiled. "She said she would make sure I used my butt cheeks instead." Zion laughed a big, full belly laugh. "Oh, that's classic." I ate another Cheeto. Before that, I had never realized that people thought feet were gross. Anyway, that was right before starting kindergarten. You know what the first day of kindergarten is like for a 5-year-old with no arms? Zion grinned. Maybe even more difficult than for a chubby 5-year-old. Maybe. The kid asked me so many weird questions. I mimicked little kid voices. "Did someone chop your arms off? How do you finger paint with no fingers? How do you use scissors with no hands? How will you play Duck, Duck, Goose? Are your armpits ticklish? How do you wipe peanut butter off your face?" Actually, what kids really asked was, "How do you wipe poop off your butt?" But I wasn't about to tell that to Zion. And no, I am still not telling you either. So just stop wondering about that. It was exhausting, I said. I bet they asked me stuff like, did you eat a skyscraper? And do you weigh more than my dad? I scowled. No wonder Zion was so insecure about his weight. I'm sorry. School really sucks sometimes, doesn't it? Yeah. So, can you do everything everyone else can do with your feet? Mostly. I mean, things are always harder, like the hokey pokey. When the song says, "Put your right hand in," I kind of just stand there like a mannequin. And I have nightmares about flag football. Try running and grabbing someone else's flag with your foot at the same time. It's slightly difficult. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would be hard. The only sport I can really play well is soccer. Are you going to try out for the soccer team in the spring? I don't know, I said. I played soccer back home in Kansas, but I had a lot of friends, and I had always gone to the same school. I hardly know anyone here. Well, you know me, Zion said. I smiled and handed Zion another Cheeto. Would you mind if I ate lunch out here with you again sometime? He beamed. Okay. Zion and I ate the rest of our lunch together that day, hidden away on the far side of the office where no one could watch us. Chapter 13. I finally got to ask Connor over as we sat on the bus together that day after school. Turns out we were on the same bus route. Mom had been driving me to and from school, but I didn't see why she needed to keep doing that when the bus would drop me off only a block from Stagecoach Pass. I knew how busy she was with stuff at the park, and I didn't want her to have to stop everything in the middle of the day to pick me up anymore. Is your mom working tonight? I asked him. Yeah, she won't be back until early tomorrow morning. Then you're coming over to my house, theme park, apartment thingy, for dinner. My parents want to meet you. I mean, I know you already met my dad briefly, but they want to meet you, officially, especially after, I leaned in and whispered, Steakgate. Connor looked torn. I can come over until dinner, but then I have to go home. I sat back up straight. Why? If your mom's working all night, why can't you just stay? He shrugged and blinked his eyes rapidly. Well, maybe I can stay. We'll see. I guess, I said. Connor never ate lunch. He wouldn't eat ice cream with me, and now he didn't want to have dinner at my house. I was beginning to wonder if he was starving himself. I decided to change the subject. So I was thinking about what you said the other day. About how maybe someone you know offed the Kavanaughs, I whispered. I whispered the word offed in case anyone was listening to our conversation. Connor blinked at me. Yeah? I nodded. Yeah, and I was thinking we should maybe start considering the possibility that there is a murder at Stagecoach Pass. Again, I whispered the word murder. You can never be too careful when discussing such things. Who? Connor whispered. It could be anyone. There's this guy at the gold mine. We call him Mean Bob because he's so mean. Maybe he did it. Or maybe the guy who interviewed my parents. Gary the accountant. Maybe he did it. Why? To take over the park. But why would he want to take over the park? Money, I nodded. It's always about money. How much money do you think the park makes? Connor asked. I actually thought the park made negative money. Okay, maybe not money, I said. I narrowed my eyes at Connor. Revenge. Revenge for what? I don't know, yet. But I'm going to solve this great mystery all on my own, I announced. If you would like to assist me, you shall do so, sir. Okay, Connor said, not quite with the enthusiasm or the British accent I had been going for. In my mind, great detectives always had British accents. We should go back to the storage shed, I said. But there's nothing in there except papers you can barely read and old props and junk. Yeah, but maybe there's something hidden there. Why else would it have all of those signs? Connor nodded. That's true. I tapped my feet on the bus floor. I never had an exciting mystery to solve. Well, except for the time I woke up one morning with every inch of my hair, body, and bed covered in chocolate. Why? Connor asked. A Hershey's Kiss fell out of my backpack and into my bed. As I rolled around on it all night, that's what it did. Can you believe it? One Hershey's Kiss? Connor didn't seem that impressed with my Hershey's Kiss story. Maybe you should ask Madame Myrtle about it, he said. Shouldn't a psychic know all that kind of stuff? Can't they, talk to dead people and stuff? She just reads palms, I said. Obviously, that's not very helpful to me. Connor smiled. You shan't worry, he raised a finger in the air. We shall solve this highly mysterious mystery ourselves. I was glad he used a terrible British accent that time. Chapter 14. My parents weren't in the apartment when Connor and I got there. You want a snack? I asked him as we entered the tiny kitchen. No thanks, he said. I'm not really hungry. How can you be hungry when you didn't even eat lunch? I'm just not. Fine. I opened a lower cabinet with my foot and took out a bag of pretzels. You want a soda? I asked. No. I sighed and hoped he didn't die of dehydration. It was still in the 90s outside. We made our way to the small living room where Connor spotted my guitar in the corner. Is that your guitar? Yep, I said, opening the TV cabinet with my foot. Will you play for me? I can't wait to see you play it with your feet. Maybe another day. I'm kind of out of practice right now. That wasn't exactly true. I felt shy about it, like I needed to prepare before I performed for him. If I ever would perform for him. I still hadn't made up my mind. Promise, Connor said. I'll play for you sometime, just not right now. Connor turned his attention to the row of video games in the cabinet. You have some good ones in here, he said, thumbing through them. My dad likes to play. They're mostly his games. Your dad's cool, Connor said, clearly impressed. By my dad's immaturity, he pulled out an impressed ultraviolet war game. Let's play this. I shook my head. Not allowed, for Dad only. Connor frowned, put the game back in the cabinet, and pulled out another game I wasn't allowed to play. I'm not allowed to play any game with a disclaimer on the cover, I said. I walked to the cabinet and pulled out a racing game. Let's play this one. I guess, Connor let out a dramatic sigh, clearly disappointed that we wouldn't get to battle each other to our bloody virtual deaths. I'm better at games when I can mostly use the joystick, I said, as Connor slipped the disc into the console. That's good, because you'll need every advantage to beat me. We played for a couple of hours. I don't think Connor expected me to be such a good player. Yeah, he did beat me a lot, but I gave him a good fight and even won a couple of races myself. I think I played worse than normal because Connor ticked a lot while he played, and it distracted me. I guess the tics probably made it harder for him to play as well. I thought him at home playing video games all night by himself, ticking badly. Maybe it wasn't good for him to spend all of his free time doing that. I felt like I was starting to understand Connor's tics, what made them worse and what made them better. Definitely, when Connor was stressed or excited about anything, his tics got worse. When he felt calm and comfortable, they weren't so bad. I guess video games got him worked up. Mom walked in the door just as we were putting the games away. "You absolutely would not believe what Bob did now," she said as she threw her hat down on the kitchen table. I looked at Connor and whispered in a Dracula accent for some reason. "Murdered someone," he giggled. She walked into the living room and saw Connor. "This must be Connor." She reached out her hand to shake with his. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Green," Connor said softly. I could tell he was trying to hold his tics in. "It's nice to meet you too," Mom said. Connor let out a loud bark and Mom jumped back. "Oh my," she giggled. "That was interesting." "Connor has Tourette's syndrome," I reminded her. "Oh," she said, "that's right. Don't look so nervous, honey." Mom touched Connor's arm to put him at ease. "It will only make your tics worse." I looked at her in surprise. "Mom, you know about Tourette's?" She gave me an annoyed look. "Avon, I was a psych major in college. Of course I know about Tourette's." "You were a psych major in college?" I said. "What's that?" She sighed and rolled her eyes. "Psychology. Don't you ever listen to me when I talk?" "No," I joked, "'cause you usually just talk about boring old people stuff." Mom grabbed me and ran her knuckles over my head, messing up my hair. "Ouch," I cried, wriggling away from her. "All right, I'm going to get dinner started. Will you two do me a favor and run over to the gold mine and fire Bob?" I smiled, but Connor looked grave. "Thank you, Mrs. Green, but I'm not staying for dinner." "Yes, you are," I said. "Your mom's working. What are you going to eat for dinner if you don't eat with us?" Connor froze up, like he had no idea what to say. "I'll eat cereal." "That is unacceptable," Mom said. "You're eating with us. Then I'll take you home after dinner, since your mom's working." Connor appeared absolutely terrified at the thought. "No, really, I like cereal." He could barely get the words out from his ticking. "Why won't you eat, Connor?" I asked. "Are you anorexic?" He seemed to relax a little, he seemed to relax a little at that and laughed. "No, I'm not anorexic. I just..." "What?" I nearly shouted. "I'm your friend, Connor. Tell me." "Sometimes I spit when I eat." Connor's cheeks were bright red as she shrugged and blinked his eyes rapidly. I spit food at people." Mom gave Connor an understanding smile. "That's not uncommon," she said. "We will all just have to wear rain gear at dinner tonight." And with that, she opened a cabinet and started pulling out potatoes. Connor looked at me. "I hope you have face masks, too." I kicked at his shoes. "See, it's no big deal. We know you can't help it." Connor's expression changed. "I wish my parents were as understanding as yours. It got to the point at home that neither one of them wanted to eat with me anymore. My dad would yell at me for spitting, and that would make it worse." He tugged at his hair. "Now I just eat in my room by myself. My mom's hardly ever around, so it doesn't matter anyway." "It matters," I said empathetically. "It matters a lot." As we were setting the table for dinner, Dad walked in. "I think that old llama might have to be put down," he said sadly, shoulders slumped. My head shot up. "What? No, not spaghetti!" I cried. Mom and Dad both gave me a funny look. I shrugged. "We have a special connection." I looked at Connor. "We're X-Men," I added softly. "I'm sorry, honey," Dad said. "He's so old. He's like 22 years old. Dennis said he's hardly eaten in 2 days, and that thing growing out of his head, well, it can't be comfortable. I'll nurse him back to health, I insisted. I'm not sure that's possible at his age. Dad said, anyway, we can talk about it later. The vet's coming tomorrow, and we'll see how he does over the next few days. By the time we all sat down at the table together, I didn't have much of an appetite. I kept thinking about poor Spaghetti not being able to eat. I looked at Connor. I could tell he was hesitant to take a bite out of his pork chop. It's okay, Connor, Dad said. We're all prepared. Dad lifted something off of his lap. Ski goggles. He slipped them over his eyes. No worries. David, Mom cried, punching Dad in the arm. That is terrible! Connor laughed, though. It seemed to put him at ease, and he finally took a bite of his mashed potatoes. Don't worry, Mom said. Everything is non-staining. I glared at Dad. All the things we had to get rid of, and you brought ski goggles with us to Arizona? They were like $80, he defended himself. So, Connor, Dad said, removing his ridiculous goggles, what are you interested in? I mean, besides pulling morbid pranks with my daughter and scaring all of our visitors away. Dad narrowed his eyes at me. You might want to rethink hanging out with her. She's a bad influence. And you have terrible sideburns, I said, unable to come up with anything better. He really did have bad sideburns. They were horribly uneven. Dad ignored me. So, he said, returning his attention to Connor. I like movies, Connor said. I have a huge movie collection at home. Oh, why don't I take you guys to the movies this weekend, Mom said, clearly thrilled that I had made a friend. Connor looked appalled and shrunk down in his seat. He shook his head rapidly. No movie theaters. You don't go to the movies, I said. No way. I went only once since my tics started a few years ago, and it was not a fun experience. What happened, I asked. People complained, of course. No one wants to listen to a dog barking while they try to watch a movie. That's messed up, I said. People are so rude. They're not rude, Connor said. They don't know I have Tourette's. That's what makes it so embarrassing. I scrunched up my nose. You should wear a t-shirt that says, I have Tourette's on it everywhere you go. Then people will leave you alone. Connor snorted. Yeah, maybe you could make me one, Avon. Then he kicked my foot under the table gently. Should we tell them? He whispered. Tell us what? Mom said. I gave my parents a highly serious look. We think there might be a murderer at Stagecoach Pass. Dad coughed and choked on the mouthful of pork chop. Mom slapped him on the back while he hacked his food into his napkin. When he could finally breathe, he gasped. What? Why would you think such a thing? We updated Mom and Dad on our theories about the Kavanaughs. Avon, Mom said, just because people are secretive doesn't mean they've been murdered. I have to admit, Sheebs, Dad said, you haven't exactly presented us with the most convincing evidence. Some people just really value their privacy, Mom added. I nodded at them like I agreed, but Connor and I gave each other knowing looks. Yeah, right, like we were going to let it go that easily. Then Connor looked from me to my parents and back again. So where does Avon get her red hair from? He asked. I'm adopted, Connor, I said. Oh, that's cool, said Connor. It's so cool, said Mom. I rolled my eyes. Here she goes. She loves telling people about my adoption. Connor looked at Mom with interest, so she took that as her cue to tell the story for the millionth time. Well, she began, Avon's dad and I couldn't have a baby, so we figured we'd end up adopting one. I started reading a lot about adoption online. Then one day, I was on a website, and there was a tab that said, Kids in Need of a Forever Family. So I clicked on it. I scrolled down until I saw it. The most precious little angel baby face I'd ever seen in my entire life. It was mine, in case you were wondering, I said. I knew the moment I saw her that she was my daughter, Mom went on, with those chubby pink cheeks and bright red mop of hair. She'd never seen such a precious, beautiful, amazing, brilliant, intelligent child, I said. Connor raised an eyebrow at me. I may be embellishing a little. No, not at all, Mom said. I knew right at that moment I saw her that I was looking into the face of my daughter. It was like she was born for me, right in that moment. Some women birth babies, but I birthed Avon through the computer that day. I groaned. Mom, that is the worst part of your story. Connor totally didn't need to hear that. Really, Laura, Dad said. It's the worst. Just awful. She glared at Dad before returning to her story. Anyway, right below her picture it said, Avon, 2 years old. I couldn't believe she was 2 years old and hadn't been adopted yet. Yeah, she didn't realize she was on an adoption website for children with special needs, I said. So I clicked on her picture, and that's when I saw that she didn't have arms. And it didn't even matter, I said. She wanted me anyway. Mom gave her a gushy love face. So I broke the news to her dad that night at dinner. Yeah, Dad said. She told me my future daughter was a beautiful redhead. Oh, and also, she didn't have any arms. How did you feel about it? Connor asked. Well, I was surprised, of course. But once I saw her, I agreed wholeheartedly that she was our daughter. Dad gave me his own version of the gushy love face. We did a lot of research before we got Avon, so we could give her the best care, Mom said. Connor, there are a lot of amazing people in the world who don't have arms. Really? Said Connor. Yes, said Mom. There's a successful architect who designs skyscrapers by using his feet to type, just like Avon does on her computer. And a woman who paints beautiful artwork that sells for quite a bit of money. Then there's that guy who's the motivational speaker, Dad added. Oh yeah, Mom said. And then there are the people just living totally regular lives, raising babies and driving cars, and doing everything that people with arms do. That's cool, said Connor. Remember when we visited that teacher? What was his name, Carl? Dad said to Mom. We found him through his website, Mom told Connor. It was called Unarmed Education. We had to drive all the way to Colorado to meet him, but it was so worth it. He showed us how he did all kinds of things, Dad said. He even drove us to the grocery store. Yeah, Mom laughed. David chewed his fingernails the whole way there. Can you blame me? Dad asked Connor. Anyway, Mom said, he shopped for food all on his own and made us a lovely dinner with his feet. We knew Avon would be able to do all of these things and more. When we finally got her, though, she couldn't do anything. Mom threw her arms up in an exasperation. Her foster families had done everything for her, bathed her, fed her, brushed her teeth. She just sat around like a slug, waiting to be cared for like the Queen of Sheba. Queen of Sheba, Dad reiterated, or Shebes for short. I rolled my eyes. And this was when Mom's full-time job became teaching Avon how to do stuff. Right away, Mom said. I was dumping out jars of marbles and telling her to put them all back in the jar, giving her a bowl of fish crackers and telling her to feed them to herself one at a time, and giving her a sheet of stickers and a blank piece of paper and telling her to decorate it, telling her to brush her own teeth, wash her own feet, scratch her own itches. Come to think of it, I said, it wasn't so much of teaching me how to do stuff as it was telling me to do stuff. That may be, Mom said. But mostly, it was telling her that she could do just about anything if she tried hard enough. Yeah, I got over being the Queen of Sheba pretty quickly, I said. I can see that, said Connor. And with that, he spit his mouthful of mashed potatoes right into my face. All right, on that note, we just finished chapter 14, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the read aloud there. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.